Hey everyone, welcome to the Unreal Engine News and Community Spotlight. At our inaugural Indie Dev Day in Seattle this week, we announced Unreal Indies, a new initiative dedicated to supporting indie developers. Find relevant resources all gathered in a single location, or get in touch with teams at Epic to help guide you on your development journey via unrealengine.com/indies. Polish author Paweł Lesniak founded studio Liope Games to jumpstart the development of Devil's Hunt, a fantasy title based on his own narratives describing an ethereal war between angels and demons. We asked the team what it was like converting his book, Equilibrium, into a game and discovered how the newly formed studio found success with a leap to Unreal Engine. Very soon, autonomous vehicles will be driving our streets. Yet, even with this burgeoning industry's clear potential to reduce accidents, improve lives, and lower congestion, we are still some ways away from fully realizing its implementation. CARLA, a free open source simulator, has been designed from day one to support the development, training, and validation of autonomous driving systems, hoping to provide more confidence in a safer and more efficient future. Engineering and architectural design files are growing larger and more complex, and optimizing them for real-time content can be time-consuming. In developing 3D visualization and XR experiences for their clients, VR Square found that various industries are facing similar challenges. To solve this problem, VR Square created Meshmatic, a software solution that works with Datasmith to automate data preparation tasks when importing complex design files into Unreal. Meshmatic yields significant time savings, cutting down file preparation from months to under an hour. You can try Meshmatic now with a free trial for beta release. Are you interested in showcasing your game at PAX East 2020? Since 2011, the Indie MegaBooth has helped showcase independent creators from around the world and are now accepting applications for their space in Boston through November 1st. Head over to their page to submit and get more information on the submission process. All right, we'd like to extend our thanks to our top Karma earners this week: Adna Marcis, Clockwork Ocean, Thompson N13, Shadow River, Crisp Clover, T Sumisaki, Wanja 9096, Tim Carter, and Gamer Errant. You too could see your name up here by heading over to Answer Hub and helping your fellow devs. Over to our weekly spotlights. First up is Lumina. In this first-person puzzler, you, an archaeologist, work to unlock the secrets tucked away in an ancient pyramid by solving laser puzzles. We'd also like to feature this series of Unreal Engine tutorials by user group lead Ryan Manning. He recently released a 4-part UE4 lighting tutorial, but has a number of quick tip and other tutorials as well. Check them out. And our final spotlight this week is Forlorn. Here we have the first part in a series of upcoming animated shorts. It's a stunning short created by animator and VFX artist Alex Keller. Keep up the great work. Thanks for tuning in. See you next week. Hey everyone, and welcome to the Unreal Engine livestream. I'm your host, Victor Broden, and with me today I have invited Scott Reismanis, founder of Mod.io, as well as Ahmed Castro, their SDK developer. How are you guys doing today?
Good. Thanks for having us.
Awesome. We can hear you loud and clear. All right, so you guys have prepared a presentation as well as a little demo for us today here. So I think we should just get right into it and tell us everything you have to tell us, because I think you have quite a bit of stuff to show us.
Excellent. Yeah, so thanks for having us, Victor. It's great to be joining the stream today. Good to be talking to all the Unreal Engine developers. And I've got a little presentation here. Mod.io, basically what we're creating is a backend service primarily, so we're not sort of a sort of game creation tool or a video game ourselves. So you're gonna have to bear with me because I've got a deck, and I know in these presentations you're used to people creating pretty fancy things in the editor, whereas today we've got a slideshow. So we'll go through this, and then Ahmed will show a bit of a demonstration of some simple flows within Mod.io to sort of power your modding community. So let's get into it. So my background is quite a long one. I've been in the games industry since 2002 when I launched moddb.com, which is a video game community that some of you might be familiar with, and same with indiedb.com, where basically our goal has always been to empower game developers to give you a voice and a platform from which to share interesting things that you're working on with the community. We've been doing that for a really, really long time, and basically enabling creativity is really what motivates us and the team, and makes us excited when we see awesome things being created. And yeah, having a platform that people can do that on has been awesome. But probably the driving force in everything that we do. Sorry, I'll just throw up a little screen of moddb.com and indiedb.com if you're not familiar with us. But probably the driving force of everything that we've done and continues to do has always been around modding. It's really what got me into the industry sort of, I think, almost 25 years ago now, when I was playing Doom and Quake mods in the early days, and largely jumped into sort of Half-Life mods, which we'll go through in a second. But I guess what excites me about user-generated content in games, and probably a lot of people here who are familiar with it and having played a number of the bigger names on our right, is that it's the unconstrained creativity that users can have, whereas us as game developers have challenges of budgets and deadlines and release schedules and all that sort of thing. User-generated content creators usually don't have the same pressure or the same sort of expectations, and so they're free to sort of explore weird and wonderful and awesome ideas, and that sort of leads to some pretty insane things. Victor, if you don't mind just throwing up modhoff.com, it's a sort of sort of a homage, a little site that we made a number of years ago, and we update it every now and then, just to go through sort of the history of modding. We've picked out a few of our favorite mods. There's a few Unreal Tournament mods in there, like the Make Something Unreal winner, Red Orchestra back in the day, and Killing Floor right there. But this is just sort of a nod to some of the more interesting mods that we've enjoyed playing, and some of the bigger commercial success stories today, like Dota and Counter-Strike, and more recently Auto Chess and Battle Royale and all these type titles. So yeah, I don't think there's any real question that modders have created some pretty incredible things. And so the point of today's presentation is to, I guess, discuss mod.io and the platform that we're creating for Unreal Engine, to help foster, I guess, a new generation of creators in games of all sizes. And basically what that entails is a platform which allows your users to share content that they're working on for your game. So content can really be anything that your game needs it to be, whether like we use like the name of the site is mod.io, but we realize today that a lot of content in games and modding is traditionally is more cosmetic these days. So it can be non-gameplay impacting changes, as simple as just new skins and sprites and all that sort of stuff, ranging through to sort of scripting and then more complex total conversions. But the idea is that it's up to you to define that as the game developer, and at the point at which you're sort of ready to start supporting your mod community, you can use a service like mod.io to ideally make it extremely accessible in your game. And what makes our platform unique, and a lot of people here are probably familiar with Steam Workshop, which we'll go into in one of the later slides, where we have a look at what they do and sort of what we do. There's a number of sort of key differences. And some of the ones that we'll probably touch on is mod.io, like we don't create our own game, we don't run our own store or anything like that. So modding is sort of our focus, and it's our sort of primary drive. So creating a platform that's entirely dedicated to enabling that and doing all of the different things that game developers want is our number one sort of focus. And so that means our platform is entirely sort of cross-platform and sort of agnostic. It's designed to sort of run in-game, be clientless, so there's no real dependencies or tie-ins to anything. We very much wanted to make it as accessible as possible, which is why like creating a first-party Unreal Engine plugin is key for us. Like our end goal is to essentially have a drop-in solution that you can get plumbed in and working in your game in a matter of minutes, not sort of weeks. And months that modding may take to set up these days. And of course, we're very mindful of the fact that your gaming brand is everything, and so having it being able to be tailor-made and adjusted and themed to sort of fit the style of your game is incredibly important. And we've taken a few early steps in that direction, but I'll touch on in a bit how you can take it even more steps than what people currently do. In terms of how it works, essentially, there's a few parts to it. So the side that sort of, as game developers, like you have your game and your mod making tools, which in this case is sort of the Unreal Editor and the Unreal modding SDK that you can release for your game developers. You would essentially connect both your game and your mod making tools to the Unreal Engine Mod.io SDK, which communicates to the Mod.io REST API, which then stores your modding metadata and everything in the cloud. The idea being that in-game, you're managing sort of the user's mod subscriptions. So you maintain a list of mods that users subscribe to. Mod.io will obviously, using that service, will put those mods in a place that you designate. And as the game developer, we don't actually help with the supporting of that mod, but we'll put it in a folder, and at that point, we'll do absolutely everything up until the point of putting that mod in a folder and making it accessible to you. And then as a game developer, it's your responsibility to detect that mod, to know what it is, and to make it work. On the Unreal Engine editor side and the mod SDK, and the mod making tools, we don't we plan on making an integration there and a plugin in the future, so that there's an easy submission flow to Mod.io. But again, the idea there is that when users cook a mod within that system, they can then quite easily submit it through to Mod.io with the appropriate tags and metadata and everything set up. To go into a little bit of detail about all these different pieces, so the API really forms the heart and the core of what Mod.io is. It is essentially the backbone of the service, and it's also quite unique to Mod.io. If in your own time, if you head to docs.mod.io, I think a lot of developers who've used it have commended us on how easy and accessible it is to really read the documentation, to really dive in, to understand how the product works and get started. And what I think, whilst as Unreal Engine developers, you're probably more likely going to use the Blueprint and the C++ Unreal Engine plugin that we've created, and not really communicate with a REST API. What I believe is really interesting about what the API enables is, as I sort of touched on earlier, the fact that our system is sort of dependency free. Having an API like this means that you can integrate Mod.io effectively anywhere you want. So to give you some examples, there's a Discord bot that someone in our community's made that basically will send push alerts to your Discord community whenever a mod for your game's published, which is a really cool sort of feature tie-in. Some developers have one mod creator's created a API that integrates with Twitch, and so all of the the people who are watching the stream on Twitch, all of their names go in-game and are displayed in-game as the sort of NPC characters walking through the world. So there's sort of some interesting sort of integrations like that, where you can potentially do modding in real time through Twitch and Discord through integrations. And of course, your community could build their own fan sites and consume the API to create really interesting sort of platforms and launches for mods. Our goal with Mod.io is we want our platform to be as modular as your game is. So if there's different things you want to experiment and try, we'll attempt to expose that functionality to you through the API and the SDKs and things. There's also the web interface. So the web interface is designed to sort of make it easy to sort of have an out-of-game mod browsing experience. So whilst we understand that the in-game is where probably 90% of your players will interact with your mods and subscribe to them and install them and expect them to work, when they're on their phone afterwards or just browsing websites, they might want to just, it's quite often it's easy just to browse through content in the website and see it. So the web interface is designed to sort of do that. It is an easy way to subscribe to mods as well, and provided your account's the same account that you created in-game is the same account that you've connected to the website. When you subscribe to that mod in-game, you should see that subscription come through and that mod automatically download. It is quite themable, so right now that just means generally changing logos and colors, and customizing tags to sort of suit your game, which we'll go into. But it solves all the complicated problems that sort of user generated content has attached to it. So in terms of, it's got a really powerful control panel. So you as developers can essentially get started, can set up and configure your game in the manner that makes sense for you. So you can do that all online. There's no real sort of manual processes here. There's moderation tools, so you can control how approval works. Like you can either have community-based moderation where everything's sort of allowed, or you can choose to be fully moderated, which is sort of the direction at the moment that consoles and some non-PC platforms require. But essentially, our role at mod.io is we want to solve absolutely everything up until that point that I said of putting that mod in a folder for your game to run, but all of the moderation, the discovery, the filtering, the searching, surfacing good content, moderating, managing reporting, ratings, like all that sort of other back-end sort of things, like that's really what we want to solve. So in your own time, have a look at mod.io/games, and you'll be able to browse a number of titles that are using mod.io at the moment. But we also run a test environment at test.mod.io, and you're welcome to add your game at any time, run through the control panel, have a look at all the options. It's easy to get started. It takes a few minutes, and you can just have a look, and there's no obligation to use the service or do anything. You're welcome just to experiment. To get into probably why we're here, that is of course the Unreal Engine 4 SDK that we've been building now. So mod.io as a project has sort of been in development now for about 2.5 years. And for the last sort of 6 months, I believe we've started creating a plugin, this plugin that we're now releasing today for Unreal Engine. And it essentially has a C++ and Blueprint interface. And we're working already with a few developers who are early adopters of it, which I'll get into in a second. But the objective of this plugin is to, of course, expose the mod.io functionality in a way that you're familiar with. We found that developers are using the Blueprint interface. We originally focused on the C++ because we're sort of newer to Unreal Engine 4. And we found that most developers are sort of interfacing with the Blueprint interface. So we're constantly adding new ways of filtering, surfacing, and searching, and mods in a manner that makes sense. But yeah, it's quite easy to drop into your project. It's open source. There's an example project on GitHub which we plan on putting a good amount of work into to get it, really to make it really robust for you to have a look at. So yeah, it's available. It's open source on GitHub, and it's now on the Unreal Engine marketplace. And we'll do a demo soon, but first we'll just talk about a few of the games who are the early adopters who we're very thankful, who helped us use it and test it and get it set up and running. So Mordhau's a game that many of you are probably familiar with. It's available on Steam right now. It's a sort of medieval multiplayer combat title. And they've got a really interesting use case for mod.io. So they, as a really popular Unreal Engine game, they had one of those good problems to have where their community was, like, I think they've already got 4,000 people in a modding Discord. So despite having no official mod supports, their community was creating levels, creating sound packs, creating new weapons, character helmets, and all manner of amazing stuff. And so for them, what they needed a way to start supporting that community in an official manner quickly. And it works in a rather interesting way. But I think what mod.io really helped them with is a really quick setup. Because one of the interesting features that mod.io has that some similar platforms don't is there's a web submission interface. So Basically, you can add your game to mod.io, and then users can start, if you allow them, start uploading mods via the website. So what that means is, if your community is already creating mods for your game, but you don't yet have an official editor built, users can start creating their mods, and they can submit them through the web interface. And then when you're ready for it, we always recommend that mod submission happens via your editing tools, because by doing it via your editing tools, obviously you've got a more granular level of control around pre-validating that mod works, because mods are a bit of a black box to us. But yeah, but it helps you get up and running immediately. And so for ModHow, that was really important, given that they had a quite an experienced and competent modding community really already running. And the aim is to, of course, build out their mod SDK using the Unreal Engine editor, release that, and integrate sort of a submission flow into Mod.io when they're ready. But this allowed them to get up and running quick. In terms of their implementation, it's probably similar to how some games have done it, but it's interesting because they run Mod.io. So it's a server operators. So at the moment, the mods that they support is custom levels. So basically server operators who run the multiplayer game servers for them can pick mods on mod.io that they like, and they can add them to essentially their server's configuration file. Then in game, so that's on the sort of server side. And then in game, when their users attempt to join a server that runs custom levels, that server will tell that game client that this server runs these maps, these levels from mod.io 1, 2, 3, and that will then the game client using the mod.io Unreal Engine SDK will subscribe the user to those levels, which will then download them into the game, and then they'll join the server. So it's a sort of fairly unique approach to doing modding, whereas it's not sort of the user's not really in control of it. The user's in control of it in the sense that they join servers with custom content. But I guess skins, like their community right now is creating skins, so there might in the future be a system where users, I guess, can subscribe to skins and sort of pick their sound packs and things and other modded functionality to run in game, which is probably more modding that most people are used to. But that's how they've done it. Another game, Playcraft, that's coming out to Steam later this month. It's a sandbox multiplayer game builder. So their idea and aim is to make it really easy and accessible, like a no coding interface in Unreal Engine, to be able to create multiplayer games and drop elements in and add little scripting and be able to create all manner of titles and get up and running really quickly. So the worlds that their players can create for others to experience and play, those worlds currently are hosted on mod.io, and they provide an interface in game to browse all of those worlds that people are making, with the intention of taking a next step of allowing people to actually share custom assets. So right now, if you want to create a multiplayer game in Playcraft, they've got all these sort of tools and blocks and things that you can drop in to design that world. Next step is to actually allow people to design custom tools and blocks and scripts and things that you can drop in and run. But they sort of use mod.io in the more traditional sense, where in-game the experience is you create content. That content gets submitted directly to the mod.io backend. Mod.io then makes that available through the API, which users can then browse in-game to install. So there's really no you could never leave the game and have full access to the modding functionality. They did their integration 100% through the Blueprint layer. So working with this developer was really helpful in helping us refine it. Like they for them, filtering and discovering and surfacing really popular content is really important. And so we made sure that when they had weird and interesting requests where it's like, we want to be able to sort or filter by this, we're like, all right, yep, we'll expose that via the Blueprint functionality. And it's a free-to-play game that'll be out later this month on Steam. and I encourage you to jump in and give it a go to see how Mod.io works in a sort of more traditional manner. So the demo is coming up soon, so we'll get into that and get out of the deck. But for those who are familiar with Steam Workshop, it's a great service. So if your game is released on Steam and it has mod support, there's probably a really high chance that you're using Steam Workshop to power your modding community, which is fantastic. Like they really pioneered this, and they really changed the way that and really inspired us to create mod.io, because 10 years ago, sort of before Workshop existed, modding was sort of the domain of really, really large games that had a big enough community and a hardcore enough fan base that people would actually go to a site like ModDB, download a mod, read the README, unzip it into their game, and sort of figure out how to run it, and hope that it didn't break anything. Steam Workshop sort of changed that by allowing, just by really defining the rules. And as long as you as a game developer implemented their SDKs and the sort of rules that they set, modding all of a sudden became this in-game accessible experience. So it didn't require it didn't limit it to just your hardcore players, which meant that really your entire community can participate. So it's easier for your creators, it's easier for your consumers. Really everyone wins. It also meant that modding sort of was able to shift from primarily being sort of big total conversions and these really complicated mods to like now just sharing something as simple as a new weapon skin or a new vehicle in game or some sprites became really easy to do, because like the effort of going to download and get that in game was quite onerous before. Steam then made that a one-click process, and so that's fantastic. So Mod.io at its absolute heart, Mod.io absolutely intends to sort of do a similar thing to Steam Workshop, and that is make modding accessible. Where we differ is we're very much focused on bringing mods cross-platform. So as a platform and store agnostic service, like we don't run our own store platform or anything like that. So we're completely agnostic. So we want to be able to make modding available in every place that'll allow us. Obviously, there are different rules on different systems, which can preclude some certain things. But if it's allowed and we're able to adhere to those rules, we'll work hard to do that and to make it accessible there. Other things that we do that differ is some of the things that I touched on is we have that, because our system again is not sort of is API based and not SDK based. We don't need to run a launcher or anything in the background. It's completely standalone, which is what allows Discord bots, modding fan sites. You can build mod.io directly into your game's homepage to allow people to browse and explore mods. So you can make it a very integrated experience, as integrated as you want it to be, which I think is really cool. It's going to open up over the longer term period. I think people are going to create and release awesome plugins and services and really expand the ecosystem for you as game developers to be able to use. And we're really focused on building that ourselves. So engine plugins, building web apps for you to try Discord bots, like that's definitely things that are on our radar. There's also for larger companies, so more the AAAs, we have a sort of a white label platform, which is sort of, I guess, a modding solution in a box. So if you want essentially to run your own private version of mod.io that is focused entirely on your games, your mods, is sort of integrated entirely into your games, your community, then we can do that. And of course, there's the whole web UI. Uploading mods can be done via the website. You can theme that website. So there's a lot more customization and control that our platform can afford you. But completely understand if Steam Workshop's the direction you're using. It's an awesome service. We're not here to sort of change that. We're here to sort of hopefully complement it and expand the scope of modding into more places and in more innovative ways for the game developers where that makes sense for your business and your game, and you want to do things, because it's our focus, and we're here to listen to your requirements and move in the direction that makes sense for you. So we're sort of at the stage now. We'll give a little bit of a demonstration, but yeah, we're really excited. Like, we sort of launched earlier this year. We've got 16 games that are live now using the service. There's sort of roughly over 45,000 mods listed. We've done 4 million mod installs. We're almost doing now 1 million a month. We're doing a lot of API requests daily. We're completely transparent in our growth and sort of allowing you to track that, which is what that mod.io uptime page is. Like, we're really excited for the future. We're really actively developing this. We've got a lot that we plan on doing over the future, and yeah, we're really excited to sort of see game developers using the service to do interesting things, and we've got some really cool stuff coming over the next 6 to 12 months, which, of course, if you follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or join our Discord, we'd be delighted to share with you when it happens. But right now, I think I've talked enough. You probably, a slide deck's not quite what you're used to. You're used to some in-game sort of editor and that sort of stuff. So what I'll do now is, I actually still have to talk a little bit, but I'll basically run through the setup process for getting a game added to mod.io, and then I'll hand over to Ahmed, who will show you how that works in-game, and then we can sort of open up to questions and things. So I'm just going to have a drink of water here after all that talking.
Yeah, it's a good call. Let's go ahead and get Ahmed set up real quick. While we're doing that, I had a question for you, Scott, if you don't mind. Chad was wondering if would mod.io be suitable for distributing user-generated content in-game? Can you integrate mod.io database into blueprints or UMD widgets at runtime?
Okay, so I am not a game developer, so I don't know what UMD widgets means, unfortunately. Ahmed might, but yeah, the whole idea is in-game. Like, I would be amazed if you can't do what you've just described, because in-game interface is the idea.
Yeah, just to following it up. I'm going to show a little bit about mod.io integration with blueprints in a bit. But yeah, that's totally doable. And also we have a couple of other projects going on, such as having a pre-built UI for your games, just a dropping tool. But yeah, more of that in a second one when we show the demo.
All right, let's see if we can get the screen share going.
Before we do that, I was actually just going to show the setup process for the game, if you don't mind. So keep it on my screen share. Is my screen share still active?
Yep,
All right,
it's still up.
All right, so the first step is, of course, to add your game to our test environment, which I'll jump across to now. In the interest of time, we've pre-set up this example game profile, which you can see here, which has a number of mods pre-populated. So, but the process where you start adding your game is via the homepage. You can just type your game's name in here, and when you click this button, you'll be taken to the place where I just was, which is sort of the setup process for your game profile. In terms of setup, it's quite straightforward. You'll, of course, just provide a bit of your game's metadata, description, and sort of tailor that for what you want. Then you'll jump through, and we understand that mods for every game are quite different. So if you've got a car racing game, for example, you may have tags such as vehicle type, vehicle colors, type of mod, like maybe a sprite, racetrack, whatever, whereas a first-person shooter game may have levels, weapons, player characters, like completely different mod types. So the idea of this tagging system is, in here you can be as granular or as simple as you want in categorizing how mods will be presented to your players. So you can sort of, like, all right, we want to support another type of mods We'll add that here, and we've designated this to be a drop down, which means you can only pick one type of mod. Then we've got modes. All right, is it single player, multiplayer? What does it actually change in the game? And you can see how that translates through is when users submit mods, they pick the tags that are suitable, which your players can then filter on. So if they only want to see maps, they want to see single player, props, like support, like this is sort of like the whole idea there is that every game's different. The system's quite suitable for that. Then our objective, of course, is to allow you to control absolutely everything about how your game works through mod.io. So we expose all of that functionality and options available to you. So this is where you can control all of the settings as to how your game works, how open it is. Like, do you allow third parties to access your API endpoints to allow them to make Discord bots and fan sites and things, or do you want to lock that down? We can integrate authentication through common platforms, and we're continuing to add platforms as they're required. This is the submission process where you can allow people to submit mods via the website, or if you're integrated with your editor, you can control that. And then, of course, curation, which is critically important, where you choose how you want mods to be created, whether you want it to be sort of no curation and it's the community flow, which is sort of standard on Workshop, or if you sort of want full curation where everything has to be checked by someone before it goes live. Then you get to the point where you invite your team in, you can designate moderators who can manage mods, you can designate administrators who can control it. And finally, once that setup process is entirely complete, you'll get to the point now where you're given a game ID and an API key. And basically, this is how you would connect and interface with mod.io using this. You're welcome to use these, but I encourage you to add your own game and get your own game ID and API key, because the test game profile is sort of not really the place to do your testing if possible. But I'll hand over to Ahmed now, who'll be using this game ID and API key in this example game profile to show you a really quick and simple flow that he's created in mod.io and the Unreal Engine plugin.
Thanks, Scott. It's a good presentation. There's definitely a lot to it. Would you mind taking a question?
Sure.
Are there any arbitrary file upload limits to the mod.io database?
So at the moment, we have an 8 gig cap. It could be larger than that. I think the largest mod that's hosted is a map for Mordhau that might be 1.5 gigs big. So we haven't experienced an 8 gig mod yet. I suppose you'd have to talk to us if you have requirements greater than that.
All
but
right.
We also support small things. So like Totally Accurate Battle Simulator. The way that they do modding is they basically allow people to share just the simulations that they create. So the idea of that game is that you make these cool little battle simulations that play out, and I think their mods are like a 20 KB sort of file that just like a little JSON or XML file that sort of designates the setup of that. So, and they've got like 30,000 of those submitted. So they range from small to big.
Awesome. All right, I think we're all ready for Ahmed's presentation as well. There we go.
Okay. All right. Okay, thank you, Victor and Scott. So yeah, now I'm going to do an in-editor presentation on how you could do like the first steps and integrating the most important features of mod.io into your game. And so the first thing is, install the plugin that you can find it on GitHub, github.com/mod.io. And also we're very happy to announce that the plugin is going to go live today on the marketplace.
It is live.
So yeah, it is already live?
Yep, okay. It's live.
Nice. So yeah, we're very happy about that. So yeah, first thing is to install your plugin. And after that, what you want to do is, just like Scott mentioned, input here your game ID and API key. And also notice that we have a couple of more another options here, settings. And I note that there is this live environment setting because we're not going to shake it right now because we're on the example game, and it's going to be run on the test environment. So yeah, once you want to go live, just update your game ID, API key, and set up the live environment, and you should be ready to go. So once you're ready, we're going to take a look at a couple of widgets and blueprints. So yeah, just as Scott mentioned, so far our blueprint layer has been very, like it's been the favorite by the players, but just keep in mind that all of this is also available on the C++ interface. Basically, the blueprint and C++ interface are just have the exact same features. So yeah, as you can see right here, we are going to authenticate via email. So there are a different way to authenticate your user on Mod.io, and you want to authenticate them so they can sync their mods and subscribe to the mods, install them. And there are, for instance, there is the Steam authentication. There is the GOG authentication and Oculus authentication flow. And we really like those because when the user just launch your game, they are going to be automatically subscribed, and without even they noticing it. For instance, Morhow is in the Steam authentication flow, so you don't have to enter an email. So yeah, we think this is a very cool feature that your players may really like. But yeah, for now we're going to stick to the email authentication flow that we also think that is very cool, very simple to use, and very easy to for your players too. So basically, you just ask your player for an email, and security code is going to be sent there. And as you can see, our blueprints, most of them, the ones that communicate to the Mod.io backend, to the API, are callback proxies, and you can handle success and failure. For instance, in here, if it fails, we just print some messages with error message returned from the Mod.io backend. For instance, I don't know, the email is not a correct email or whatever, message like that. And if everything was correct, we then move to the email exchange screen when you enter a security code that was sent to your email. We're going to try that in a moment. And in here, the blueprints are basically the same. Again, callback proxies, but now instead we are going to exchange the emails. And if it succeeds, it means that your user is authenticated. And finally, we're going to take a look at what happens when you are logged in. So in here, we have a couple of other different blueprints. This one might be very, very useful. This is basically how you will browse mods in games. So you can say, like, for instance, I want to like browse all the mods categorized by type of mod. So you can add tags to them, just as Scott mentioned. So you can like filter all the tags or the maps, etc. You can also add a couple of other filters right here. You can sort them, for instance, by more popular or by date, etc. So other important blueprints are, for instance, we have some listeners right here, just to keep everything up to date on the screen. You can check for example, if a user just sign in, or if a user just, for example, subscribe from a mod, if a mod was updated, etc. And yeah, and other stuff such as the download queue, that all these things, the mod updates, mod installs, happen automatically. You don't have to add any code or C++ for mod installs and uninstall, etc. It's just your player subscribing or unsubscribing to mods. So yeah, let's take a look at this. So first, I got asked for for my email. There you go. So an email should be sent there, and okay. So this is my security code. I'm going to put that on. Put it back here.
You may need to refresh your email. I think that one was from 6 hours ago. I know.
I know. Yes, it was correct. So as you can see, I'm now logged in. And if I want to install a mod, I can just subscribe to it. And there you go. It's downloading now, and then it should show up right here when it's installed. And the cool thing about this is that you can do it also from the browser. As you can see right here, I just installed it detected that I subscribed from the plugin, but it's the same way like if you subscribe from here, from the web, or from the API, or from a Discord bot, or whenever, the plugin will automatically sync with this. So let's try that. I subscribe from here, go back here, and we should wait for a bit. Right now, the plugin is checking if there is any update every 15 seconds. And if, but yeah, there you go. Just trigger and install the download. So yeah, this is like all the automatic installs, all the also on automatic uninstalls. If you unsubscribe from the web, it will be unsubscribed from here. All of that happens automatically and behind the scene from the plugin. You can also configure the settings if you want. But yeah, that's the general idea of what the plugin does. It keeps you like on sync with your mod installation.
That's great, and I think that answered the question as well that we had earlier. And for Scott's notice, that is UMG right there. Is what the interface is, has been built in. So that's great.
All right.
Thanks for the Go ahead, Scott.
I was just going to say, yeah, I haven't had too much experience with the Unreal Engine, so I'm learning as much as anyone here.
That's great. We all are, all the time. There's no end to that. We had a couple of questions that I'd like to go through. Let's see. So this one is regarding sort of mods on the server. Is there any chance I can have mod.io work with downloading when joining a server that has the mods if the player lacks the requisite mods?
So that sounds similar to ModHow's implementation. There's sort of two ways to do that. You can either have the server download the mods from mod.io, and then the server actually logic then pushes those mods out to the client when they join. So in that instance, it's the server and the mod.io that interface and communicate with one another, and they have the logic between them, and the server then sends all the content that the user requires to play on that server to the user. Or you can do similar to what Mordhau's done, where the server tells the client when they join, these are the mod IDs that they require, and then that client will need to download those mods. To use mod.io, you don't necessarily, it's not necessarily a requirement to authenticate. If you've got your downloads set to public, then users can effectively get a download link for them via the API. So that works. Like, your servers don't necessarily have to be authenticated with mod.io. They can just communicate with the API and download those mods. So that use case is absolutely supported.
Awesome. Yeah, that definitely makes it easier rather than sort of have to communicate between your friends. Oh, do you have this one? And oh no, I had that one installed, and I'm not using that one anymore.
Yep.
Then we had a question regarding sort of the content, what kind of mods can be there. Are there any restrictions to what kind of mods can be on mod.io? And sort of, is it curated in any way?
Yeah, so really restrictions is for the most part the responsibility of the game developer. Mods are a black box to us, so from a creativity and content perspective, whatever suits your game. So you might want your mods to be really simple and just cosmetic, or you might want you to support, you may have implemented support for total conversions, like games like Armor and those that support really complicated mods. As long as your game can support them, we can host them. There are processes and flows to moderate that content. So you control how those flows work, whether you want just community-based moderation. And the way that works is anyone can submit mods and they effectively go live immediately on submission. But if that mod hits a certain threshold of reports, so say after the community's reported that mod as inappropriate 10 times, it'll be immediately taken down and flagged for review by your moderators. Or you can choose full moderation, which in that case, every single mod before you have to approve every single mod before it goes live. These systems are important for user-generated content because naturally your community is going to create awesome things, but there's obviously there's a very large spectrum of what they will create. And sometimes it might just not match what you're required, or we may receive a DMCA takedown request because of copyright or something, in which we'll comply with, and that mod will be removed. So there's processes in place to handle all these different use cases in much the same way that Steam Workshop and other services work to help manage that for you. What was the final thing I was going to add here? Yeah, so and this becomes particularly important on consoles and other platforms because where on the PC modding has got a long history and there's a lot of different things that are happening. On consoles, moderation is much more important, and in some cases a requirement.
Does that also apply in case the mod, say, doesn't work? If there's a problem with it, is it the similar rating system that happens?
Yeah, so in that instance, yes. So when a user reports a mod, they can report it as being incompatible, inappropriate, offensive, like whatever their reason might be. Compatibility can be a tough thing because a mod that may be compatible with version 1 of your game is no longer compatible with version 2. There are ways to help mitigate that sort of challenge. One, obviously the best way is to try and maintain compatibility as much as possible, but there is hidden metadata you can attach to mods and mod files. So when the user uploads a mod, you might attach the version of the game that this mod is known to be compatible with, and then when a subsequent version comes out, you may filter on that hidden metadata. Of course, this is the benefit of submitting mods via instead of submitting mods via the web interface that we have. Benefit of submitting mods via an editor that you've created is that because those mods are pre-cooked and pre-validated, the assumption is that they work, right? Like because that's again something that you can code in. You can code in that pre-submission validation if you do that.
Sounds good. I think that was all the questions we had regarding Mod.io. Is there anything else you would like to let chat know while we still have a little bit of time left on the stream?
Yeah, there's a few more slides. So yeah, just to wrap up, yeah, thanks very much for having us.
Of course.
On the stream today.
This is awesome. You know, you're providing an opportunity for small teams as well as large teams to implement mods no matter where they decide to ship their game on, right? And as well for consoles. I actually am not familiar if that exists. I know some sandbox games that I've played on console, but I can't remember one where I actually was able to upload my own content and play it on the console.
Yeah, so the consoles is interesting because 2 years ago, modding didn't exist on consoles at all. And then Microsoft with Minecraft, you've got Nintendo with Super Mario Maker, and Sony with sort of Dreams. I think they've all really seen the power and how strong user-generated content can be when done, in really good ways. And I think whilst PC, it's been around for 25 plus years now, so PC's got a very large head start. But Paradox have built some modding support on consoles into their own games. Bethesda's done it now, so it's certainly starting to happen more. And as a sort of independent and agnostic service, we absolutely intend to work with the console providers to figure out what their requirements are, what do we have to do to enable modding to be compatible with their systems, and then roll that functionality out. But it's definitely it's a journey. So if that's something that you as a game developer is interested in, it's probably something you should reach out to us to discuss directly, because as most people will be familiar with consoles, there's certainly a sort of a process that you must go through regarding certification and things to ensure that everything's good, and we can certainly help with that. And then once that process is complete, then of course you're good to go.
And the Discord is probably a good place to contact you about those discussions. Yeah.
That's correct. Yeah. So the easiest way to jump into our Discord is we've just discord.mod.io links you through. And Victor's welcome to share the deck that we've presented today,
right.
Which has, as the final slide, has some links to some of these helpful things.
Is the little demo project that Ahmed showed available as well?
Yeah, the demo is available on GitHub, and so yeah, you're welcome to go ahead and try the example. And also the plugin is also available on GitHub, both open source. So yeah, you can find them on github.com/mod.io, and yes, there is the UR4 example and UR4 plugin.
That's great. Chad was a little bit curious about monetizations. Sort of like, this sounds a bit too good to be true. Scott, do you have anything you can share regarding how that works on your platform?
Yeah, so it's a good question. Yeah, so the way that it works is we do see a future in which we think there's going to be a happy middle ground where creators can sort of, we like to call it go pro, like they've done in certain games, like Roblox has done really well, and Valve's done in some of their games, where they sort of surface the best content from the community and make it available as part of their official game. So our objective as creating this platform is to first and foremost support modding communities in different ways. But over the journey, it is our intention to explore and experiment with patronage, sort of like the Twitch-like models, and trading and that sort of things for mods. And as we make that functionality available for the developers where it makes sense, we'll offer it to them. And it's like, well, yeah, we think this makes great sense for our community. It's going to enable our modders to go pro and create a lot more, and that'll benefit our players. And yeah, in that instance, we would attempt to approach this from a sort of standard sort of store-like business model, whereby any revenue that we help you generate from your modding community, we will take a revenue share of. There's also our white label platform. So for the larger partners and those who have fairly large requirements, like if you're doing more than 500,000 plus mod installs a month, that maybe the white label solution and some licensing products would make more sense for you. In which case it's a conversation that you can have with us. But yeah, at the moment it's absolutely free to get set up and running. And if you've got custom requirements, just to reach out and chat.
Yeah, I believe you'd be excited to hear from anyone who is using your tool, and to see what they're working on, right? And sort of start a conversation. That definitely sounds that you're excited about what people are making. So now I don't want to suggest this, but it sounds like you want to suggest everyone to reach out and talk to you and let you know what they're working on, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely our intention. Like, there's so much awesome stuff going on in gaming right now. The landscape's changing really, really rapidly, and like, as much as modding's been around and has been such a strong force for gaming for such a long time, like, we reckon it's going to get significantly stronger. A few years ago, Twitch, what we're streaming on right now, didn't exist. And I think whenever these user-generated content platforms go out and make user-generated content more accessible, the outcome is almost universally incredible. And so we want to help do that for games in more places and in new and different ways. And I think that's probably one of the benefits of, if you are thinking about mods in your title, of working with us, like, this is our focus. Like, this is what we're dedicated towards. Like, we want to help make this bigger and better for you in a way that benefits you and benefits us. And so that's our goal over the next few years, to continue to improve the platform, to listen to your requirements, to build it out, and hopefully, make a really sustainable, strong ecosystem of creative sort of content, user-generated content.
That's great. Perhaps you did mention it during the presentation. Maybe I missed it during chat, but I did see a little bit of discussion around so what is required if a developer wants to ship their game with Mod.io integration. Hopefully they've talked to you already, but are there any fees involved when you're shipping? Does it matter if you're a small or a big studio?
Yeah, so there are differences. So there's a few sort of tiers. We haven't really publicly disclosed any of this stuff on our website yet. Not because we aren't ready to. It's just that we've got a lot that we've been doing, that everything's a process. But yeah, so the idea here is that for indies, and for everyone, in fact, it's free to get started. So you can add your game to the test environment, you can get set up and running. There's absolutely no cost involved. Our objective is for Mod.io to be a free service and to find ways to offer functionality that allows you to sort of create mod marketplace type tools and trading and patronage systems, and to work with you on a sort of rev share for that. But those tools will be optional. So, in terms of scale, for indie games, it's free to use. There's apart from that revenue share, if you do monetize content, user-generated content in the future, it's free to use. If you're a sort of a larger game studio that, as I said, sort of in the 500,000 to $1 million mod installs a month, congratulations, your game's probably going really, really well if you're powering that many installs. At that point, we should probably have a conversation and talk about what your needs are, because you probably got some more complicated requirements in the standard use case, and we can have a conversation about that. And then for the AAAs and the larger studios that might want a private sort of mod solution in a box, like they can talk to us about our white labeled in-house sort of service, which can be completely customized and tailored to their needs. But yeah, it's free for indies to get started. Like, by all means, like, add your game, reach out to us if you've got any questions about that, and we'll tell you exactly where we think you fit. And we're completely transparent about that. So there's no surprises there.
It sounds like you definitely prepared a large vessel, and you would like as many people as possible to come on board and start on this ride together, which is
that's right. Like,
of doing some script analogy.
We think that like it's pretty proven that mods help games sell better for longer, and so we feel that the benefits are really strong, and so enabling that is, there's significant upside to be had, and that's always our objective, to find that upside and help games roll it out in more places.
That's awesome. Scott, Ahmed, thank you so much for coming on the stream, talking about Mod.io, and everyone else. The plugin is available on the marketplace right now, as well as source on GitHub. Go grab it, check out the documentation, and see what it involves. Super happy you guys are able to make it. I know that the time for you, Scott, it's in the middle of the night. And Ahmed, I believe you're on the West Coast. That's what it sounded like when we were talking the time difference earlier. But either way, really nice to have you here. I hope everyone in chat had got as much information as they wanted out of the stream today. Just to sort of wrap up the traditional way that I've been doing now for most of the year. Something that I am going to keep mentioning because it's such an important resource, and I've been talking to people at Dev Days and other events and letting them know that we are captioning the entire stream and uploading that script. And what that means is that you can actually go and open that PDF and search for key terms. And so, we know that the streams are long sometimes, and we are talking about different things, going back and forth between, demos, presentations. So if you're, trying to look for a specific thing, or you remember, oh, I watched that stream, it was in the background earlier, and I heard something that was interesting, instead of going through and scrubbing it all, open up that transcript, Control F, search for the keywords that you're looking for, and then you have the timestamp right next to them. And that will allow you to sort of a little bit faster and easier go ahead and find what you're looking for in the stream, if there was some useful information there. Every week we do a survey. Please let us know what you thought of the stream, the content, and what we should bring to the Unreal Engine live stream in the future. Everyone who provides their email address to it will be participating in a sweepstake for a t-shirt. So please go ahead and let us know. Or if you just, want to tell us something, the survey is a good place. Let's see, I think we were able to get that in chat. If not, it will be dropped in just a second. As always, go ahead and let us know what you're working on the forums. Make sure you visit our unofficial Discord channel, Unreal Slackers. There are almost, I believe, 27,000 developers now was the last number I heard, which is very impressive. Thanks to everyone who's hanging out there and helping out. Our Facebook group is also very active, as well as the Reddit. Our community spotlight videos and content that we present are sent to us or found by us throughout the community. A good way to do that is just add Unreal Engine on Twitter. Go ahead and post them on the forums. We have a release channel as well as a work in progress. And we are still looking for more countdown videos. We think it's an awesome way to show off cool projects. That is 30 minutes of development inside the editor. Go ahead and speed that up to 5 minutes and send that together with a logo for your team, your studio, or yourself. And we might go ahead and put you on as for our little countdown video in the beginning. If you stream on Twitch, make sure you use the Unreal Engine category so that we can go ahead and check out what you're working on. It's always exciting. Make sure you follow us on social media, and special thanks to Scott and Ahmed, and of course Chat, that has been giving us some really useful questions. And I think with that, we're gonna shut down the stream here. And I wanted to let everyone know what we're doing next week, which I tend to, at the end of my spiel here, not think about it, although it is something that I do think about quite a lot through the week. Next week, we are going to have Chris Gagnon on, and he will actually be talking about subsystems in Unreal Engine and how we can use them to encapsulate functionality and access that in an easy way as a designer. It's really cool, something I'm excited about. Once again, Ahmed and Scott, thank you so much for coming on. And for all of you out there, we will see you again next week. Have a good day.
Bye.
Thanks for having us.